Hello everybody, welcome back to Taste of Reality. My name is Queenie, for those who don't know me, reviewing Married at First Sight, the Afterparty, episode 8. Before I get into it, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and let's get into some things. So on the panel today is Chris, Katina, and Steve, and I felt like this was a poor picking. Who they should have had was Chris, Noi, and Mark. That's who they should have had. But we move on. Steve is clearing up that there's a difference between self-employed and unemployed. And just because he doesn't clock into a 9-to-5 does not mean he doesn't have income. So Keisha asks him a question about whether or not he has savings. And I feel like that question is irrelevant. And I'm going to say why in a minute.
Do you have savings at this point?
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
Okay.
You know, I'm cooking, cleaning, shopping. I'm taking you out on dates.
So you're good. You're
I'm
like, I haven't.
You could have savings as a single person and still not be able to hold down a household, you know? But as a single individual, you're good. So what I wish Keisha would have asked was, when you were saving, did you have in mind of a potential spouse that you would have to provide for if he subscribes to, you know, traditional gender roles or whatever? And to me, I felt like that would have given me a better image of like why he's so nonchalant about getting back to work. Because if he was not only saving, but was also cognizant of, I'm going to have a wife and I'm going to keep those expenses in mind as well as I save, then I'd be like, oh, I understand why he's like, oh, I'm chilling. Because he's like, I have nothing to worry about. And more so like, with Noi, it seems like she's a woman who doesn't mind contributing, but I would also feel at ease of like, I can contribute, but even if I couldn't, we're good. They rehash the noodle situation, and this is why I wanted to have Noi on the cast. They all speculate, Keisha included, that Noi could have still been upset about the finance conversation. And I'm like, there's no way you would know that unless she says that. You guys are all speculating.
Do you think she was just still really salty about the job thing?
That's what I think.
So she didn't. So that's the problem. She doesn't communicate that.
Okay.
She doesn't tell me that. I'm just like, even tell me why you're mad. She didn't even tell me that it was over noodles.
Ultimately, if you have been in a relationship, you know, sometimes those little fights are really an indicator that there's a bigger issue at hand. It's just easier to fight about squeezing the toothpaste from the middle rather than I be seeing you checking out them girls and you making me feel insecure, because that is a more vulnerable conversation that people don't want to have. But you can easily fight about the toothpaste. And no, that was not a personal example. But yeah, it's just, communication is key. Communication is key. Communicate. I don't know how many times people have to say it. Communication is key. It's not a cliche if it's true. Katina addresses Ola's statement about not dating Black women in the past. And she's like, well, you know, I think my friends just misunderstood what he said. You know, he had been with them in the past, but it just wasn't a serious relationship.
But my friends, you know, they're very protective of me.
Of course.
So when you're meeting strangers and they don't know you and you're a Black man and they hear like, I've never been with a Black woman, they're, of course, naturally they're gonna side-eye you and be like, so what that means, do you like Black women or not?
Mama, not only did he say he has never been, this man did not say in a relationship. This man did not say hook up. He said, I've never been with an African-American woman. He also said, because they did not find me attractive. What is there to misunderstand in that statement? He also then said to the friend, that is why I'm giving this a try. And the guy friend was like, marriage is not the time to experiment. I get it, this is an experiment, but marriage is not the time to be like, oh, let me try this out. You never know how this goes. And now I'm also seeing why the initial conversation went the way that it did, because if I was a friend listening to a man say what he was saying, I would look at my girl and be like, I hope the ink did not dry. Is there a way to smudge it out? Can we do white out? Can we burn the paper? This one is not the one. So I understand Katina's trying to have her husband's back and all, but girl, they did not misunderstand him. He might have misspoke, but they did not misunderstand him. The guys are then sharing their first impressions about Ola, and the consensus is that, you know, he could be abrasive at first, but when you get to know him, da-da-da-da-da. Not everyone has the luxury of getting to know somebody. And that's not to say everybody should just be walking up to everyone with pleasantries and all that stuff, but for there to be a theme that Ola needs time to be seen as a good person, like, to me, I'm kind of just like, I don't want that. If I'm walking into, this is personal, if I'm walking into a room with my husband, I don't want people to feel like kind of like on edge when my husband is around. And then 3 months down the line, they're like, oh, well, I get him now. I'm like, no, there's a way to present yourself in front of strangers. There's a way to talk to your wife, who in this case is also a stranger. You know, you don't have to always be an acquired taste. At least fake the funk or something. So Chris is talking about how some of the friends were noticing some red flags about Alyssa, and one friend in particular actually spotted her self-serving nature right at the altar.
And she spent the first 5 minutes ignoring you, fixing herself, blaming somebody else, and having to deal with her own sort of view.
Yeah.
And now it's sort of, I told you so.
Oh, no, okay.
Of course, everybody gets nervous, but I can understand why the friend would be like, yo, she not even looking my man in the face. Yo, she doesn't seem like she's decided to be here. Because for me, that's a sign to run. I don't need the person to be like super like, wow, I'm so attracted to you. This is amazing. I'm so glad to be matched with you. But at least show some level of enthusiasm. Don't show like there's any place you'd rather be but be here. And that's what Alyssa did from the moment she turned that corner. And that is where the relationship ended. She thought it was at the divorce that she's upset about, but it was at the altar. Katina is asked if the Alyssa that she personally experienced is the Alyssa that's being depicted on screen. And she's like, I don't want to make excuses for her, but like, she really thinks that she tried.
Do you feel that by her seeing this, maybe she'll kind of see it from a different perspective?
Yes, I do.
You say no?
No, I totally agree that she gave 100%, but it was to get through the experience.
But not to get
as
to
friends.
know you.
I agree with Chris. I think it's really hard to fake the funk on camera, and Alyssa thought she would be able to. And when she realized her 15 minutes of fame would turn into 50 minutes of infamy, she knew it was over. And I say that because she would say things like, I know how this is going to come off. I don't like how I'm going to be portrayed. She knew that one, she did not put in the effort, and two, the villain edit was going to be easy to accomplish with her. I really find it hard to believe that you would have to produce this out of Alyssa. You know, oftentimes, sometimes you watch and then people talk about their experience after, and you're like, oh, wow, I can see how the producers would have chopped that up to make us think it was one way when really it was another way. Not with Alyssa. Absolutely not. The group then weighs in on the Mark and Lindsay situation where she blew up at Chris. I always want to call him Chris. She blew up at Mark and also at production regarding Mark. And they're all basically saying this is who she is. She does this. She's known to be, going off at the lip. And again, I say, this is unacceptable. As an adult, this is unacceptable. As a married person, this is unacceptable. There's no excuse for it. In my opinion, there's no excuse. So that's all for the after party. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.